In this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to take your dragster, the finished dragster, and attach the wheels, the axles, and the bushings so that you can create what is called an assembly file using Autodesk Inventor. The first step in this process will be to locate the wheel assembly files that you may have reverse engineered and saved into your H drive, your student H drive, or you may also locate those files already completed for you in the Dragster Assembly Files folder, which is located in the Dragster project folder in the Units of Study for Blackboard. You will also be able to find a link to that on the announcements page. So let's get started. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to make sure that I downloaded all of these files and I have them located in my H drive. And now I'm going to minimize the browser. I'm going to also close this window out, and I'm going to start with a new assembly. And close everything else out that was currently on the screen. And we'll just minimize that one. So you have Autodesk Inventor open, and you should have the gray screen and nothing maybe is open at this time. So you go to File, New, and we're going to be looking for a standard millimeter IAM. And IAM is the file extension for assembly. So I'm going to scroll through my metric tab until I find the standard millimeter IAM. Once I've opened that, you will see that you just simply have a blue workspace with your X, Y, and Z axis located at the bottom left corner of the screen. From here, we will now place the component of the dragster. So I'm going to go to Place Component, and this is when I need to locate the example that I have. So I'm going to need to go into my desktop to locate the file that I have. And here's my dragster sample, and I'll hit open. So there is the file. And you notice there's another copy, another cloned copy here, or duplicate, that I could place another one if I wanted to, but with the mouse I'm just going to simply right click and hit done. That way I know that I have what I need. And I'm going to rotate the car. So it looks like that. And from here, I am now ready to start bringing in the other components. Before I do that though, it would be a good idea to start saving my work. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to save this as a sample file. But you would at this time save it as your period number, your name, and dragster assembly. Okay. So from here, let's go ahead and place another component. This time I'm going to be looking for the bushings that I have. So I'm going to need to go and locate those. And here's the bushing, the CO2 bushing. Hit open. I'm going to place one here. Click, click, click. Right click. Done. There are all the bushings. So we're going to start off with these first. So I'm going to zoom in on the first bushing, and I notice that it's not rotated the correct way. That's okay. This smaller part will be inserted into the axle hole so that later the axle will basically sit nice inside the bushing so that there's minimal friction on the axle with the block itself. So the axle will only be rubbing against the bushing on this side and on the opposite side, so that we are reducing resistance here. So what I want to do now that I have the components placed is I need to constrain them. In the assembly panel, you will need to scroll down and hit Constraint. Okay, then you're going to get a option menu that pops up. You are using the sample default mate, and you're going to need to click on Insert, and then we're going to zoom in. I want to click first on the axis right here, this circle. It highlights blue. And then I'm going to come over here, and I want to get this outside circle too so that they line up. Actually, I want this inside one right here. And you see, you get a clicking noise because that will tell us that it is now mated. In order for this to stick, I need to hit the Apply button, then I can close it out if I want. So I can close the window, and I can click, and it will not move. It'll rotate, and you can't really tell that it's rotating. But other than that, it's mated to that specific spot. And you can actually check that is inside by clicking on the hidden lines so that we can see the hidden lines, and you can see how it goes straight through. So the axle will push through here as well. I'm going to go back because it's easier for me to start without the hidden line. So let's go ahead and do the other bushings. I'll repeat it one more time and then I'll fast forward so that we can move on. So I go to Constraint, Insert, click on this outside circle here, and then click on this inside circle right here that I highlight red. Hit Apply, and there are the bushings. So I'm going to go ahead, fast forward through and finish this up, and we'll start with the axles. Now that I have my bushings placed, I can rotate. I'm going to rotate it flat so that I'm looking right at, I'm going to flip it back so I'm looking straight down on the car, zooming in using the wheel of the mouse, and I'm going to go ahead and go with hidden lines so that I can see that everything lines up. So everything looks good over here on the left, everything looks good here on the right on the rear wheels, and same thing with the front. They look good. Okay, so I'm ready to move on to the axles. So in order to do the axles, I'm going to need to first find the axles once again by going up to this menu option for Place Component. Place the component and look for the axle. So I'm going to be looking for steel axles, and I actually have them in a different location. So I'm going to go back and find those. And there's the steel axle. And I'm going to open that up. Place one here and place one right here. Right click, done. So from here I'll rotate again and turn the hidden lines off for now. And I'm going to now go ahead and go to Constraint. This time we're going to do something different. We're going to go to Insert, and I want it to go all the way through, and I want it to align. The axle is 66 millimeters in length, but you may need to trim off some of it or extend it equally on either side by going back and editing the sketch if we find the need. So I'm going to click on this part right here, this axis, and I'm going to go right in there, and it's inserted directly inside. Let's rotate, and like I said, as you can see, it doesn't go all the way through, or it goes all the way through, but more so on one side than the other. So I can go ahead and turn my hidden line back on, and I can offset this so that it's centered. I know this is not the easiest way to do it, but let's go ahead and try and go with 5 and hit cancel. Let's go down. That's this. I clicked on it. That's this steel axle right here. Collapse this or expand it, and you see insert at 5. Let's try a -5. So go -5. And we're getting closer now. Let's try -6. We can go even further than that. Let's try -7. And if you zoom in on it, it looks like we're centered. Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing to this one over here. So I'll collapse that. And we're going to go into Constrain, Insert, Aligned. Aligned. We're going to align that both sides. Rotate this so I can see what I'm doing. Alright, we have it in. And we'll place it straight down. And we said -7. And that looks good. And we're good. So I can align this. So we're looking at the top view again. And there are both my axles placed within the bushings. So I'm now ready for the next step. Before I move on with the wheels, I want to at least show you the model menu over here on the left hand side of the screen. And when you move the mouse over each one of these extrusions or assemblies, actually these are the assemblies, these are the constraints that were taking place, you can actually see what's highlighted and what actually took place. And if you expand it, you're going to be able to see the mate, okay, for the CO2 bushing, CO2 bushing 2, CO2 bushing 1. And you can actually go into the axles, and there you're able to see that this axle was inserted -7 millimeters, so it moved it over 7 millimeters. And you can actually go ahead and edit that if you ever need to. Now, if you wanted to take the axle and trim it, you'd have to actually double click on it, and you're back into your editing options like you would have in a standard millimeter IPT. So you would be able to go in the extrusion, right click, edit the feature, and here you can go, instead of, I actually did modify it, it's 58 millimeters instead of 66. So if I wanted to bump it up to 66 for the wider wheels, I could, and then hit OK, and then hit return to get out. Okay. Since I modified both of them, I'm going to need to move them again, so I'm going to insert this one and try -10. Okay, that one moved over a little bit. Maybe need to go more than -10. Let's try -11. That one looks good, and we'll come up to here and do the same thing, -11. So they're now both centered for the most part. Now we'll move on to the wheels. So let's bring in the wheels by going into File. I'm sorry, not File, Place Component. And we'll bring in the front wheel first. So I have a front wheel and I have a outside wheel. Now remember that if your car incorporates both wheels, you can at this time add both wheels, or if you're using the front wheel for both, front and back, then you can use the front wheel. It's entirely up to you. We start with the front wheel, we'll hit open. Okay, put a wheel over here, right click, done. Okay, from here, we're going to then go ahead and constrain again. So we're going to go to constraint, and we're going to go to the insert option. We're going to go with the outside edge and line it up with this inside circle, and it's made it. Okay, we'll do the same thing, hit apply, close it out, go to constraint, and we'll do the same thing over here. Alright, so we have both of those on. Now we can go ahead, I'm going to hit apply and close, scroll down in through here. You can move the wheels in. Okay, so this is where you would insert. Let's try -5. So you see how it's moving in more. Let's go more than that. Let's try -8. We can go a little bit more than that, -10. Alright, looks good to me. And if I want to measure this out, I want about 1 millimeter in distance between the two. I go to Tools, Measure Distance from here to here. It says 7.3 millimeters. That's a lot. Okay, that might not have been the right measurement though either. Oh yeah, it's 7.3. So we could go even further if we needed to. So I can go ahead and change that. Go back into this one. So we'll edit, which is what we're doing right here. -12. That's too far, so it wasn't measuring it correctly. So back to -10. You would have to tweak that if you wanted to. Now the axle, once again, the axle is going a little too far, but that's okay. We can leave it go because we trim that later. Same thing over here. We're going to do -10, but this time I think we can do actual 10. Oh, no, it has to be the -10. Okay, so there you go. There's your front wheels. And if you wanted to and change the extrusion here, you can right click, or you can edit that, double click on this, and you can change that extrusion. Okay, by going into the extrusion, that's this piece right here, and editing the feature. And I went with 58 for before. Hit OK, and you can see that that works perfectly inside. Okay, you could actually go a little bit further than that. So let's go back and edit the feature again. Let's go 60. And 60 looks almost perfect. Alright, and then hit return. Well, actually, it's not because it's showing you this. 60 is right back where we were, and something might have been messed up here. So I'm just going to hit undo. Oh, it's because I was moving the wheel. So let's go back. All the way. Okay. And we're out. We'll just leave it as is. So make sure you learn from my mistake. Don't just click on a wheel, click on the axle. You need to be moving the axle, not the wheel. I actually moved the wheel in, and that kind of messed things up. Alright, so we're now ready for the last part with the, let's go with the outside wheels. Same kind of setup where we place the component. So we're going to go with the outside wheels, hit open, and click one here, click one here. Right click, done. Alright, we may need to rotate. Alright, yes we will. So we're going to go, I'm going to turn off the hidden line for now, just so it doesn't confuse me. Go to place component. Actually, no, I'm sorry, not place component. We're going to constrain. Constrain. We want this inside circle to be constrained. Oh, we made a mistake. You need to go with insert and click on the inside circle, and you want to match it up right here. Okay, and then you can go ahead and offset. Let's try -10. Okay, that looks good to me. Hit apply. Done. Go ahead and do the other side. Constrain. Go on this edge. Doesn't matter which one you start with. And I made a mistake there. And the mistake was that I did not put in the insert option. Okay. Insert. Okay, and then we'll go with the -10. And I applied it. And we have it now finished. So here you look, there's your finished car. Last thing I could do then is to rotate it so that we're looking down on it. Aerial view, the top view. And we're going to go into the hidden view, hidden lines. Everything looks good, ready to go. And that is a completed, assembled drawing. So rotate it back if you want on an isometric view. Pull it back into no hidden lines. And from here, save it. Make sure you save once again, and that'll be your finished product. Sometimes when you save, it's going to ask you if you have files in different locations. Do you want to save the dependents? Yes to all. You want to make sure you hit yes to all and then hit OK. Because you don't want to pull up your drawing and open up it again and all that shows up is your block and the wheels are missing, the axles are missing, and you get some kind of error message. So that is it. That is everything you need to know for creating the assembly file after you've already created everything else. That is it.